I did. One of my kindergartners said, I have a really cool pizza joke. Oh, never mind, it's too cheesy. I'm Barbara Dwyer.
I'm Karen Wedaman.
I'm K through 12.
I'm college. I have done some high school, and I did coach swimming, and I coached 9 and 10-year-olds for about 10 years. So I know the 4th graders really well and love them a lot. So a lot of different teaching experiences later in my life. Yeah.
I really wanted to start this series because for parents, I want you to be able, when your child says, why do I have to learn this? I want you to be able to articulate exactly why they need to learn this. And I want us to really investigate the future. What's going to happen in the future? What are we going to need to do as parents to ensure that our children are going to be successful in this new and crazy world that we are developing for them? And so what I thought we would do is we would take the different sciences, technology, engineering, and math, and we would come here and we would talk to you guys and help all of us become better. So let's start. My first question to you is, as a scientist, why in the heck do we need an A in art, in STEAM?
Okay. So I asked that same question because it was STEM, and then suddenly it became STEAM. And I, being sort of a hardcore science person for all those years at Davis for 20 years, why is art now in our department? You know, we have a dean of STEAM at College of Alameda. And then in just kind of going, I really hadn't revisited my career at UC Davis till recently, just a few days ago, a little bit ago. And I just pulled up a couple of images and I realized there's a lot of art in what I did. And I just never realized it at the time. I guess we'll try to do this. Let's see if I can find it. So, let's see this. Okay, so this is at Davis in the Life Sciences Annex. And I was working there when the building was built, and there was a stairwell that was really empty, and one of the other professors said, Karen, what do you think we should put there? And I said, well, we could put like a DNA sculpture or something like that. And he goes, okay, let's do that. And so we talked with an artist, a sculptor, and got together with him, and we decided we would use a portion of the DNA sequence that I had sequenced for one of the motor proteins that I had pulled. I pulled the gene out for one of the motor proteins called kinesin. And I did this over a period of years, and it turns out there were multiple kinesins, all this kind of thing. So just to get back to the DNA, long strand, and we just took one small portion of it where the ATP will bind to make the whole thing work. And the artist and I got together, and we discussed how we could make the sculpture look. And so the 2 strands right here that are on the outside are anti-parallel to each other, and he did one that was smooth and the other that was rough. And so that represented, it was like this artistic impression of the outer edges of the DNA double helix, and then the inside where the bases, the nitrogenous bases go together. He made that out of glass, and it was 2 layers of glass which were fused together and had 2 different colors. And so when you looked at the sculpture from the bottom, it had one, and there was a skylight that came on through. And so you would look at it, and the colors going up would be one way, and the colors back down with the sun on it would be another. And we went to an advanced chemistry book, and we looked at how all of those bases go together, and the pitch and the angle, and he got all of those correct. I mean, he's an artist. I'm a scientist, and we got together and put that together. And so that was kind of a fun thing to do. And then you had to figure out how to cantilever it. It was very heavy, it's all glass. And so they sort of hung it from the ceiling, but had to have the correct angles and pitches on all the things that they hung. So that is still there. It needs a little dusting because it's no one wants to get out there and like touch the stuff in the middle because the whole thing might come down. You know, it's kind of scary. So that was just, you know, kind of DNA as art, and I was just always in the nitty-gritty of it and figuring out how to get it out of an organism and learn what the bases were in the correct order. And then, so there was that, and then another thing that I worked on in that lab, this is a worm that is the size of a piece of dust, and so it's just been magnified. And I took the kinesin gene and I put something called GFP fused to the end of a green fluorescent protein gene. It didn't hurt that protein at all when it got expressed. And then I learned how to do microinjection into the worm with a little piece of dust, and didn't kill the organism, so it stayed alive. And then we were able, with advanced microscopy, to see where our particular protein ended up in that organism. And so University of Wisconsin was really excited about it because they had a worm database, and this was going to allow them, when they did their serial sections on it, to discover all sorts of other nervous system parts that had never been found before. And you're going, why the worm? Because the worm is an animal, this little worm, and it has so many genes just like ours. So it's a model organism, it's inexpensive, it reproduces very quickly, you know, so it told the field a lot at times. So again, it's just beautiful, if nothing else. It's like another work of art. And then the last one I was just thinking of is that this is not my work, but it's pretty phenomenal. So in each cell there are mitochondria, and so this is kind of what got me interested and excited in science. And when things are static, you're like, yeah, okay, that's whatever. But when I see that, and I see that that's mitochondria, which we always look at as like a little sausage-shaped still thing that, you know, yeah, it just looks like sausage, and then you see something like this moving like this, that's all mitochondria, and it's all interlaced, and it's all these tubules that are together, and they all are interacting with one another and communicating. I thought, I have to know why that is. Immediately it gets you into the why, how, you know, what, and that's just, it was so exciting to me. So that's kind of how I got into the whole science business. So it helped me to see the art in the science, because when I was working at things every day, it was, you know, you have to do things step by step, and you have to learn things in that order, and you can't jump to the next level until you've gone and had step-by-step training. And that's what they're doing here as an example, because I have down on my little card today, I was telling Barbara, that for our future, we really need to have, our kids need to have the ability to do the following things. Maybe we don't have a specific name for the things right now, because we don't even know what the jobs are gonna be 10 to 15 years from now, actually. So we haven't been created yet. But the ability to be observational, to be an observer, that's number one. And my students right now at the community college level, we do a little exercise right in the beginning of the semester. And it's to take a lint ball or a starburst, and we go through minute by minute. I time them, and I have them just observe whatever the thing is about it and not rush through. And it nearly kills them to have to wait to do that at that speed. But in the end, they were super quiet, they were totally engaged in it, and they realized for the first time how they in their life, they don't usually really observe things, because we don't take the time to observe it. But I would say that is probably like a huge factor. Learn how to be a good observer and be curious. And I started out in high school as a journalist. And so we learned, the first thing we learned was who, what, when, where, why. And I realized, well, that makes sense how I transitioned into science later, because it's exactly the same questions. It just was a different field. So I still had that same excitement for the same types of questions. And so having those questions is important. And then another important thing would be for them to dare to risk and, you know, get outside.
Let's hit on that one,
Yeah.
because one of the things that I think is vitally important for our kids is to make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
And I think as parents, when they make a mistake, that's what you want to see, because that means they're out of their comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times what we'll see in education is if a child has a math problem that they don't know, and they get an F on it, we're really sad, because obviously they didn't understand. But what happens is they don't want to take the next level of math because they fail at math. So instead, it's like, oh, well, number one, as a teacher, how could I have taught that better? But also as the child, okay, let's take just this one problem and let's see if we can find the beauty within the math. And let's see if we can figure it out together. And then now you try to figure it out and allow them to make their mistakes. Because the more mistakes they make, the better they're going to become. Because mistakes in a lab, how many mistakes do you make in a lab, or in anything? How many mistakes do you make? And the more mistakes they can make, that means they're trying harder and harder, doing more and more different things, and eventually they will get it, and it will be their own. And it is their way. Okay? Let them make mistakes.
And the different ways of approaching, as a teacher, the different ways of going about solving a problem. So I didn't really learn that until I was a TA in a physiology lab, and the students needed to solve something. And I realized, thank goodness, I mean, it's just by chance, I sort of was up there and explaining it, and then there were like 4 different ways and approaches, all came up with the right answer. And I didn't shut down, like I didn't throw it up on the board, like, okay, here's how you solve it. It's like, oh, Mrs. Wedaman, now, I solved it such and such a way. And I was so taken aback and intrigued by that. I didn't say, oh, well, you know, we shouldn't do it that way. I said, oh my gosh, and then someone else said, oh yeah, and I solved it this way. And I went, okay, so that just opened up my eyes to the fact that our learning styles and our ways of picturing numbers and math is so different. And if that can be accepted, you know, then that's another, you need to have people who are willing to work with that. That can be a problem, but I learned a valuable lesson that day, and so from here on out, because I have a lot of students who are afraid of math on the college level, I was telling Barbara that, you know, in a week I'm going to have 50 students, and the very first thing we're going to do is metric measurements, and and one other thing, math related. And they will panic. They will absolutely panic that we're starting with math. So I just tell them, we're gonna do it. We're stay, we're gonna do it, we're gonna do the lab, and so there are people just have a lot of different styles in that way. So that definitely, taking those risks, I would say is super important, and I would say that's probably from the time, I don't know, it's just probably been my entire life. Just take a risk, take a risk and get out of your comfort zone whenever you can. I guess that would be it. And not be restricted, if you do decide to do that.
And if you look in the future, what is our future going to hold for our children? And if somebody can sit here and tell me right now what the world is going to be like and the demands on our kids in 10 years, please tell me.
Right.
Please tell me, what are the jobs? What are the skills that are going to be needed? Because I wrestle with this every single day because of our kids. What skills do we need to teach our kids? But I think if we teach them critical thinking, today we were watching Cosmos, and this is kindergarten through 3rd, we were watching Cosmos, and this section that we are was when the emperor in Qin burned all the books. For the first time, all of the books and scrolls were burned. And he told the population, you will only write in this form of Chinese, and you will only speak in this dialect, and you will not question anything. And so I turned off Cosmos, And I asked these children, I said, what do you think would happen to our world if that's the way that it was in our country? What would happen to our world? What would happen if it was in all countries? What would happen? And I had a kindergartner tell me we would never have gotten to the moon. And then they just started talking, and I couldn't get them to be quiet. They had taken that concept of flatlining intellectual dialogue, and they were infuriated. And they said, well, that's why they came to the United States. And I said, sweetheart, we were nowhere to be seen back then. This was a very, very long time ago. And I said, but that is one of the things that, a reason that people came here, is freedom of thought. And they probably went on for about 5 minutes in just a heated dialogue about freedom of thought and what that meant in terms of life, and in terms of friendships, and in terms of acceptance of other people. And these are little guys, but nobody said that you shouldn't know this yet. Nobody said you're too young to talk about this yet. Because
did one of them bring up about Malala?
Oh yes, one of the children said, it's happening all over the world still, because he didn't know her name, but he said there was a girl that was shot in the head because she believed that girls should have the right to go to school. And all the children didn't know that. So he sat and he explained the entire situation to the students in the class today. And again, it was just this unbelievable sharing of information. And the more that we can do this as educators, as parents, as friends, as family, you don't need to hide everything from these kids, because if you don't talk to them and let them share what they're feeling and they're seeing now, they're going to be talking to somebody else, and maybe you don't want them to think that way. Open up those communications, talk to them, over communicate. And you can use the actual vocabulary. Don't dumb it down. They're gonna get it, believe me.
And that takes us into the technology part of things, because as parents, there is the dealing with the amount of information out there and accessibility to it, and how do you manage that? And I personally am not involved in that, and I can only imagine that is an incredibly difficult road to go on right now. But we were trying to say and talk about how is technology working in our favor or not in our favor? You know, is it something that we can use and not only us, but our children can use and take a really far away in a good way? Or is it distracting us?
Are we ever going to catch up with our own technology? Sociologically, are we going to catch up?
And so we were talking about how it's a two-edged sword, because when I was doing science, what we found is that even in terms of microscopy and all of the abilities to take technology further, that sometimes held us back. We couldn't see the unseeable, the things that were smaller than the human eye, without having those tools. So as technology went on and got better and better, the technology finally caught up with the thinking. So there's an example of technology being behind, and when technology caught up, that's when, wow, the great breakthrough happened. I mean, you could have gone along and done all the steps and known how to do all of the work, but with a newer and better microscope, a better camera that goes on that microscope, better tools, then suddenly things became visible, and that was mind-boggling. So in that sense, technology was behind. So we wanted to catch up, but we have certain technologies like artificial intelligence, which was just on 60 Minutes. I don't know if my husband and I still watch 60 Minutes. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people of this age don't. But there was an interview all about artificial intelligence this last Sunday. It's worth watching. A gentleman in China who has sort of been at the forefront of all of this and has many entrepreneurs who are under his direction and his guidance in terms of financial guidance are all now billionaires. They are all involved in artificial intelligence. And his prediction is that within a very short period of time, 40% of the world's workforce will be not working at their current jobs very soon. And it's not to say, oh no, but immediately it makes you think, okay, what are they all gonna be doing? You know, I mean, we have to start thinking about those things, that there are certain, it's fine to have certain jobs that are done by robotics and artificial intelligence, that's all good, but people need to be thinking about how they're going to adjust, what they're going to be learning. I say lifelong learning, right? I mean, I'm an example of that. I mean, so you're constantly learning, constantly changing, constantly, and it's hard when you're older, you know, to continue to challenge yourself to something new.
But that's what keeps you young.
Young and involved, you know, because not only at 60 are you not considered really to be part of the workforce. I was surprised to hear it was 40, and I went, oh my gosh, you know, this, I really have an uphill battle. So, yeah, I mean, it's to stay young thinking, but it's also to be relevant and to feel like you're seen and to feel like you're there and taking part. I mean, this is a young crowd, but I mean, as you get older, you're thinking, I don't want to retire. I still want to be here. I still want to make a contribution, but you still need to be pushing that envelope even if you're older. You can't just say, yeah, you know, it's fine the way I did it before. So, I mean, young people, when given the opportunity, it's just limitless, you know, in terms of how much they can take in and be excited about, and all of the things that they can imagine doing, you know, and being. That's what I want to see. And
I was gonna say, Wall Street Journal has predicted that your generation is going to go through 6 major career changes in your working lifespan. 6 major changes. So for our kids that don't like change, get over it. Get over it. If your child does not like change, help that child embrace change, because the one thing we can promise is there's going to be change, it's going to be often, and it's going to be big.
And I've had at least 4 major career changes, and I love that. I love that fact. I don't regret any single day of anything that I've ever done, or any class I've taken, or any subject I've learned. You know, I can honestly say that, because so many of my students will say, why do we have to learn? You know, you'll get that question, because some of the things get tough, right? So, well, I'll never use this. Why do I have to learn this today? And I can honestly say that I guess the attitude I've taken is that every single day, every single thing that I've learned or people I've been involved with has made me, you know, and that is valuable. You know, that makes me unique, and it makes life interesting. So those 4 or 5 career changes, it wasn't like, now we're in a culture of, oh, if you've been at a job for 2 years, that's considered to be long.
Long term.
You know, and it was that if you were at a job for 10 years, that was very respected. And now it's like,
What were you
just
doing
like
there?
taking up space?
Yeah.
You know, it's a whole different thinking. So I've had to adjust my thinking on that too. So yeah, 2 years is considered a good tenure at a place. So,
as a professor, freshmen coming in, what would you like to see more of than you currently do in terms of skills for our kiddos?
What I've found is that all of my students absolutely far surpass me when it comes to computers, and that makes sense. I didn't grow up with them, I have learned, and so I go along the way. They are very fast. They can synthesize things. They can utilize the computers really well. When we get in the lab and we do experiments, nothing. They can do nothing. They don't know how to use their hands. They don't know they don't feel comfortable with actually the hands-on experience. And to me, that is of so much importance. And by the time they get out of there, they can do it, and they feel very proud of that. That is an amazing skill. And then I tell them, if you go to a four-year, because right now I have community college students, and some of them will be transferring to a four-year, some may be getting certificates and maybe doing very specific skill sets that are very hands-on, which all of it's great. If you go, I tell them, the lab that I was in at UC Davis, my major professor would go and teach 200 to 300 students majors biology, and he was awesome at that. He was a fantastic researcher. Okay, he told them, anybody who wants to come and work in the lab, come, we'll have a place for you. Out of 300 students, I would get like 5. No one would show up. It was free. You didn't even have to take units for it or anything like that. And I was kind of the student-oriented, I want to have people to teach research. I want the undergraduates there. I want them to have bench space. I want them to have their own projects. And so the ones who came in there, but it took guts to come into that lab and say, I'm willing to take this risk. I'm willing to fail. I'm willing to maybe not know how to do something. But 5 out of 300, I mean, that really is shocking. But that's what I tell all the students that I teach now. When you go to the four-year, if that's where you're going, and you really like science, or whatever it is, go to that teacher. Go to that professor, go to that lab, whatever it is, and say, hey, I'm interested in your work. I'm interested in finding out more about this. Can I be part of your lab? I guarantee you they won't turn you away. That's what's so crazy. When I was in college the first time, I was so young, I was terrified. I did not do it. I didn't do it. I was not brave enough. So it's like when I went back to school, I was a bit of an older student, then I learned, oh, they are here for me. They care about me. This is why they took this job. They want to help people to learn and become more educated and to learn skills. But that's a big one. So in terms of being more prepared to come to college, I think skills that are, the computer skills, no worries at all. But the hands-on skills are lacking, and anybody who has those, oh my gosh, I mean, they are so desired in any situation. So
I also hear with what you're talking, I hear a self-confidence skill lacking. And so guys, pull it together. If you want it, you need to go for it, because nobody's gonna hand it to you on a silver platter, right? You know that. And some of you are already doing that. You're already doing internships. You're already making a difference.
yeah,
Continue that, because if you want to go to grad school or you want to go to college and you want those letters of recommendation, start them now. And if you're a younger student, when you go off to middle school and you go off to high school, stay in contact with your elementary school teachers. Let them know how you're doing, because when you go for those scholarships in college, everybody wants a scholarship, right? No parent wants to pay, right? And if you want those scholarship dollars, the most important person in the world to get them from for universities is your elementary school teacher. I have known Eddie since he was in the 3rd grade. And what I have known, and I've followed him over these years, is he is just a worker, and he will keep at it. What kind of a reference is that for a university? Not, I had Eddie this semester and he's a hard worker. No, so young people, keep in contact with these teachers. Let them know who you are, how you've grown, what's going on, okay? Right?
I think that's true. I mean, any student who asks me for a recommendation for whatever it is they're going to do next, I of course say yes. I mean, again, it takes a lot of courage to even ask, it turns out. And then they're surprised when I'll do it. And then when they read what I wrote, again, it's a confidence thing, because they're not even seeing that in themselves, what I see in them. And that is so amazing to me, you know. I think.
But again, I think that confidence comes with us allowing them to fail. If we allow them to fail and they figure out to do it, because you can tell your children a million times, I'm so proud of you, I know you can do this, blah, 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 blah. But until they know within themselves, guess what? They don't believe it. So that's a part of allowing them to fail. And then allowing them to fail until they get it.
And in research, it's 90% failure. I'm sorry. You know, and my husband and I would have to have the talk, because I would start a whole new project and I would thinking about it, creating it. That's so exciting. You know, I get to do it. My boss has the confidence in me to say, design what you need, go get what you need, and the sky's the limit, basically. That's a little daunting, I mean, in a way, to not be held back by anybody or anything. Now you are your own, you know, you have to be the one who's saying, I can do this. And I would go through it and like, wow, it wouldn't work. So I'd go home. How did it go, Karen? Oh, it didn't work, you know, okay. So what is your MO? Isn't your MO that the first time you try it, and you've designed it and all that, it tends to not work, right? I said, right. He goes, and then what happens the second time? Well, I change it, I adapt it, I think about it, I try it again, and it works most times. So, you know, it is with research in particular, the ability to fail and be okay with that, but learn from it. Like, why didn't it work? You know, and be able to process through that and not take it personally, like, I am a failure, but the thing that I designed failed. It just didn't work. So now let me try to dig deeper and find out what I can do to make it work. And I'm not saying in research that you design to find the answer that you want, but you just even designing the proper experiment so you can come up with a result. The result is the result. But you can get a non-result if you don't design the experiment properly to be able to see anything from it. So yeah, designing the correct experiment, that takes failure, and then kind of learning from the failure and going, and then being super excited, you know, when you figured it out, you know, so it actually is working for you. So then you can do the whole project.
Do you think that universities are going to be changing? I know elementary education is definitely changing, high school education is definitely changing, or needs to be changing, one or the other. What about university? Are universities, are they going to be changing? What do you see in the future for universities?
Well, I can see one, this is just an example, because it's going to change in every way. But I deal with a lot of pre-nursing students or allied health. So in the past, and myself too, way back in the day, at Santa Monica College, when I went back to school, when we took anatomy, we had the full cadaver, and we had the different parts, and we went through all that. And so, in this day and age, because of technology, wow. I mean, and it's a little expensive right now, but it's going to come down, and we even, at College of Alameda, we even looked into it. They have a whole anatomy table, which is all on, it's like big computer screens, but it's the whole human body. And then what you can do is you can learn the entire anatomy without having the cadaver, and it is real. I mean, I went and demoed it and did it, and you can do diagonal cross sections, you can open it up, you get the layers, you can point on any particular thing, and it will give you information on that. You can quiz. So all of that will be available to the students. And some of the work we did at Merritt College with microscopy of tissues, they actually took those slides and they've incorporated that into their technology. And so, like, if you click on a particular skin, you know, an area of the skin, or one layer down, you go to the kidney, then those tissues, because you have to learn that in anatomy too. You have to learn all the tissues, and you have to draw them out and do all these things. That is available too, all as new technology.
Do you think augmented reality is going to make a difference in these fields?
I think it's huge. I mean, I'm just seeing people with their, you know, their virtual reality glasses on right now, and I haven't done it yet, but I am so wanting to do that, because in the field of biology, in that particular world,
yeah, that's what I'm thinking
that,
too.
I mean,
Incredible.
I was thinking from when I was a little kid, I love being outside, I love going on hikes, I love camping, all those different things. That isn't our world right now. I mean, I wish it were, but it's not. But to be able to put that on and experience what that really is like, what that real world really is, it changes you. It, you know, it moves you in terms of our natural world, and how important it is, and our earth. You know, which
Well, I
to
can
me,
see it just in terms of anatomy and physiology, where you can literally put a body in your front room, you know, and you can go inside and you can take a look from all these different angles. I love it. I think it's going to be so
it's
exciting.
huge. It's just huge.
And my babies are talking about it. They're talking about it. I mean, because of Mr. Rob, he's shooting augmented pictures and putting Greek sarcophaguses in the middle of classrooms and that kind of stuff. And my kids are walking around and seeing what's inside.
Yeah.
So this is going to become a part of their world, their reality. I think that is just so super exciting.
Yeah, I think that is huge. I mean, anything visual like that is very dramatic. And yeah,
Without the smell.
Without this smell.
Oh, that's what killed me.
Right.
The smell.
right, and just health hazard.
Yeah.
Just health hazard, right there. I mean, that's why I really don't want to teach that particular class right now at this age. It's like, you're right. I mean, the smell, but it's just being in and amongst that. Even if you have fans and all that, it's really challenging and not really very healthy.
I think so many things are changing. I think one of the things that I see that is changing the most is our role as educators. We are no longer talking heads like we are right now. We are no longer talking heads. We just need a great big round table so we can all sit there.
I know.
We are facilitators, and we are not the alpha and the omega of intellectualism. We are the, let's see if we can discover what this is together. I asked the kids today, I said, when we're finished with the cosmos, what would you guys like to study next? And it was all over the board. It was, let's get into physiology of the human body. And these again are little itty bitties. Let's go to the ocean. Now we study space. Let's go to the ocean. Let's do this. And they wanted to learn. And so it's up to me to find ways to put them into a situation where they can learn what they want to learn and still maintain the standards that I need them to maintain so that they can eventually go and knock on your door.
Yeah, and I may have a room full of 50 people, so that makes it a little tougher, you know, but I certainly don't want to do death by PowerPoint.
Yeah.
You know, that's, and when I first started teaching at the college level, you know, you're just terrified up there, and you're like, okay, what if I forget everything I ever knew? And so you have your PowerPoint slides going, but every semester I've taught, I've learned more about how to do it and how to do it better. And my latest one is going to be this semester where I'm going to, as I'm talking about a certain subject, then I'm going to kind of intersperse kind of a quick little question, kind of a stopping question where we'll, just try to answer it, but one person at a time. I'll just call on people, but not shame them, just make it a fun thing, and then we keep going. And then in the end, yes?
Ever thought of using a clicker?
We call it clickers, but you can do it for free, so I can hand it, which is really great.
It is also anonymous, so.
Which is good. I mean, you can do it any way you want, like as a teacher, because we are unfortunate, well, it is fortunate, but we are asked to basically quantitate how we're doing, which is good, so we're held accountable, so people aren't like way off track, they're not teaching the material. But clickers are definitely cool. There's another one also that one of my 14-year-olds I had last summer who was taking the college course. She says, Mrs. Wedaman, why don't we do, and I'm forgetting the name of whatever the quiz is, but I said, oh, that sounds like so much fun. And I said, okay, I'm really busy grading all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. She goes, I'll put it together for you, no problem. Oh my gosh. She had like 50 questions, all done with all the A, B, C, D answers. And then everybody does it and makes teams and things like that. And then you're going, and everybody's so into like throwing their answers out there, and whether they got it right or wrong, and the class is going, no, like if they didn't get it and somebody else got it. So yes, that is a winner. I mean, people are super engaged. And they're learning it. And actually now, the big thing is on open education resources, so that students don't have the great burden of all the textbooks and the lab manuals. This is coming on strong right now, which is great. So even though I worked for a publisher, Addison Wesley, back in the day, after I was an English major in the beginning, and I know how hard people work, and I know how amazing those textbooks are, and I know they are beautiful, they cost so much.
Yeah.
And it's prohibitive. For every semester you have, this outlay. And it may be books you're not going to keep, and so you can do all this selling and this and that and the other thing, but it's always the wheeling and dealing to get that to happen. So I'm looking into that very seriously right now, and some of the online, the open education resources that are developing are
Amazing.
really good.
Yeah.
Really good. I went, okay, I want to use this semester. My husband says, well, don't you have to have that into the curriculum? I'm just such I'm a renegade. It's like, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do it on my own. But, you have to get permission to do it.
Unless you own a school, then you can do everything.
Right. But I am going to go to, we have a flex day coming up on Thursday. I'm going to go to a talk by one of our professors who is leading up the charge on the OER, the Open Education Resources, and find out, how I can do it, because then they can have their textbook right online, they can have their lab manual online, they can respond in their lab manual online to me while, in real time. So it is changing, moving rapidly here, and it's good. It's hard to keep up with, but it's exciting. It's exciting for the students, because I know it can get really dry.